Okay, continuing. We have created a page of columns of type. We've got a text wrap on the image. It is pushing the type away, and we've actually edited our type by changing size and changing the height of the text box to fit all the copy in. There is now nothing in the overset box. There's no little red overset valve. It's a beautiful thing. Couple more things. I'm noticing when I go to W that the image of Joe Malone kind of falls off the edge, which I don't really like. So I'm going to click on that image and I'm going to put a stroke on the image frame. I'm going to put it just a 0.75. And if I wanted, maybe I could make it a light gray by, it's black, but I can take a tint here and make it 50%. Oops, no, that's the wrong one, sorry. Click here. And actually where I would make the tint is here, just to have it be kind of subtle and small. Also, in our headline and our subheadline, I would like this to be a little bit more letter spaced out or kerned. I'm going to just see where it says VA and there's a double arrow. If you just click that, it will add a little bit of space, which I just think that word particularly needed. That subheadline did it. Okay, so now I'm thinking about making this look a little bit more exciting. Right now it's very black and white. I could certainly change the colors, but I'm looking at my swatch panel and I'm pretty bored with those basic 6 or 7 swatches. And I'm going to want to grab more colors, and I'm going to grab what's colors from the Pantone Color Bridge library. So this is very cool. These are Pantone colors, are the global standard colors. So if you picked, Pantone PMS 397, everybody in the world knows what Pantone 397 is. So to do this, it's very simple. Get your swatches panel out. If you can't find it, it's Window, Color, Swatches. And you want to click on the top button, which is that little parallel line button. Click there and go to New Color Swatch, the very first option. It will bring up the New Color Swatch dialog panel. And then you want to, where it says CMYK, which is a color mode, we're going to click on that drop-down menu all the way down to Pantone Color Bridge Coded. Now there's a bunch of different ones here, but try to pick Pantone Color Bridge Coded. And this now, what happens is there's this long scrolling possibility of all the different Pantone colors. It's a bit daunting. So all you want to do, because you don't want to load all of them into your swatch panel, because that would make it really difficult to figure out, you want to kind of find the colors that you think are appropriate to your brand. For instance, I'm going to click on this Pantone 775, and then I'm going to keep on going, and I think I want to pick kind of maybe some blues. Maybe, actually, she's very creamy, so, and besides my cover image is kind of a creamy green, I'm going to pick this green, and maybe well, not an olive. Nobody likes olive anymore. Maybe a brown. And once I've got a bunch, I hold my command key down, my control key down as I've clicked on whichever ones I want. Once I have what I want, I click on Add. And if you notice that those 6 or whatever I did, 4 or 5 swatches, you can say done, have been added to my swatch panel. So now, if I want to change the color of my font, I can just select it and pick, these are weird colors I picked, huh? What if I pick the pink? Yeah, that will read. Maybe actually the stroke I put around this, I might change it. I go up to my stroke and I could change that to pink, and I want to change it to 100%, not a tint. That might be pretty. Did that work? I think it did. Let's make it bigger. So again, with the blue arrow tool, let's make it a bigger, that's too big, maybe 5 point. And maybe this one I do kind of a soft tint on it. So it's just a pale, pale pink. Yeah, so that looks better. So that's how you load Pantone swatches. And you can always go back. Say you've got 5 and you want more. You would click here, New Color Swatch. Do it again. Pantone Color Bridge Coated. You know, you could go in and pick now a blue and say Add and Done. And there's the blue. Okay? So that's adding to their color swatches. Now, back to our document. Now we have to work on page 3. So page 3 is going to have a grid of products, we've decided. I'm not going to work on the back cover because there's just too many videos going on. So remember we talked about, we know how to create a grid for products. You did your sweaters. This is going to be a different way of doing it. It's called Gridify, and I think you will like it. So what you want to do is you literally just go to Command D or Control D. Navigate to the images that you should have prepared for your grid. In other words, perhaps they're all very close to the same size. For me, I put them in a separate folder, and I have these 6 images. They're all perfume bottles, and I'm going to shift and click every single one of them. So they're all selected, and I'm going to say Open. And if you notice, the cursor is loaded up with the preview of one of the bottles. There's a little blue insignia that says 6 in parentheses, and that means that there's 6 images ready to be placed on the document. But if you hold the Command and the Shift key at the same time, and then notice that the cursor turns into a grid, and then click, while they're selected, click and pull down and across till you see a grid of dotted lines, of frames. These are going to become the frames. Now I don't need 9, so I can lift my Command and my Shift, my fingers off Command and Shift, and now I'm moving my left hand to the arrow keys on my keyboard, and I'm going to pick less of the up and down. So I'm now just hitting less up and down, more up and down. You guys have to play with this till you get 6 images. And I know my images are slightly vertical, so I'm actually kind of configuring them that way. If you can see how you just have to see how it diagrams out. And then when you feel like that's good, let go. And it has plopped in all of those images. And I'm actually just going to pull that so that they're right going to the margin. Pretty easy, huh? So if we go to W, there is no strokes on any of these image frames, and actually these aren't perfectly the same size. So I'm going to put my W back on, and maybe with all of these I make them a little bit bigger. So you can just do it manually by going to your, oops, make sure that did you see what just happened? I'm going to go back. See how these 2 numbers are not the same, and it made this look all squashed? You want to click back on proportion. They should both be the same number. Sometimes this is awkward. Oftentimes when you click on this, it'll just make it correct. But you want to always have the proportion on, and then you just decide by figuring it out what size you want these to be, right? So when you're putting an image into a frame, you want to think about the negative space. And if this helps, because if you want to have a stroked frame, which we often want in this class, I'm just going to select all of the boxes, and I'm going to put a frame on just so I can see what's going on. Maybe I'll even put a 4-point frame, and maybe I'll actually even put that thick thin that we used on the cover. That way I can kind of see what it looks like. But it turned to blue because that was the last Pantone color I had clicked. So I'm going to switch that to black. And if I go to W, that's the way it will look. So again, I would just go into each image as you see fit and position it. You really want to just use your own eyes because, you know, these are all different shaped bottles. And I just want to make sure they all kind of have the same amount of white space around them. this one, perhaps I might go back. This one here looks like there's a shadow on it, and I probably will delete that if I had time. I'm not going to do it on this video, but that would mean I would go back into my link. I'll show you how to do this, and go right into Photoshop and mask that shadow away. Maybe I'll just show you really quickly. So here we go. So now we've got lots of images in our document so far. If we go to our links panel, which has disappeared for the moment, no, there it is. You can see it has now been populated with all of our images. And use the link panel to help you figure out where things are. So for instance, this, if I click on this image, and let me see if I actually click on the frame. If I click on this frame, and or even with the white arrow tool, in the links panel, it selects it. It has a blue highlight. It's saying that's the image you're talking about, that's the image you've clicked on. If you want to now work on it in Photoshop, this is the cool part, you would right click, tell it that you want to edit it with Photoshop. I have a couple of different versions of Photoshop. And Photoshop's going to have to open on my computer, so this is going to take time. But it will